Hello everyone, it's Ndeye. Thank you Chris and Jen for this presentation today, it was awesome. I agree a lot about many points you mentioned today during the presentation, during the boot camp. I'm really happy and grateful to be here, and I'm really happy I made this choice. This is really challenging today. I'm going to talk about a subject I never really talk about beside my editor and before my book was published. I usually avoid that book signing because it's a book that's really telling the story I'm going to mention right now. And it's really heavy on me. And I think this is a good challenge for me to get really far away from my comfort zone. So a few years ago, I had an airplane crash. But before I explain what about an airplane crash and how it's my badass, I have to tell you that I was a pilot student first. So as a pilot student, I was supposed to have a solo soon. And I decided to have, like we call it, a sandbag, which is just you sit down and you do nothing in an airplane. And that airplane was flying really far away from our aero club, and I decided to join. I didn't know about what's going to happen. I had no idea, and it was in an area I've never flown in. I had no idea what's going to happen in there. So I said, okay, why not? My instructor was completely against that idea. But anyway, I was like, who cares? I'm just going to do it. And I did it. So we went to a place called Ferkesse-de-Go, which was 3 hour and a half flight from our location. And then I decided to visit the place. I visited a nice place. I had that cane sugar plant. It was my first time. I've never seen it, and they were burning it. It was smelling like caramel. It was really, really good smell. I had a really beautiful day, and the company hosted us, had us for stay. We had a beautiful meal on a 5-star hotel. Everything was perfect that day. I was like, wow, I'm grateful I did it. Guess what happened? On the way back, before the takeoff, we check everything like the airplane check, like you do every time before you fly. We confirmed that everything was okay. We had 3 pilots on that plane, and we all agreed that everything was okay. We talked to our control, and we were good to go. What happened was, after the takeoff, few minutes later, we realized that we can't have the wheel back in, which is not good because we don't know if it's in or if it's out. Anyway, there's no way you're going to land that plane. I mean, a normal landing. So we were like, okay, what do we do? So we had around 2 hours and a half to decide if we want to call or talk to our relatives or do something, because we don't know if we're going to be alive after the landing, because every plane going to land. The takeoff is optional, but the landing is not optional. You have to. So we had to decide. My co-pilots decided they would call their family and let them know what happened. I had to decide if I'm going to call my family or not, and I decided not to do it because I was thinking I have no reason to contact them right away because I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe everything's going to be all right. We're going to find a way. It's an international airport we are landing in, should have all the facilities, everything to take care of this kind of situation. So I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to have a nap, which was a great nap, which was the most grateful nap I've ever had. I was like, it was my last nap on Earth, maybe. So everything happened. We had the okay to land. The international airport was okay, and we landed. Actually, we had a crash. The fire started to burn, and the pilot that was in charge, the captain, was really grateful. I'm really grateful I'm alive here because he did not decide to save his life. He first decided to shut down that fire. So he did a good job. The firefighters came in and helped us and just throw us out of the plane really quick, and I made it. But it was really stressful. And the worst thing was I had to fly solo by myself after this shocking experience, which is not easy to handle. So I had the same night, I was supposed to host a party for the company. And I was the host. I was the one in charge of everything, the food, the table, everything. And I had to do it. And it was already scheduled for months. And I was like, no way, I'm going to just let down. So what happened, I had to find a way out of the international airport, because everybody knows that when you have an airplane crash, you can't leave the place before 5 or 6 hours. And I was like 3 hours before I have to host that party. So I had to go, and I had to kind of handle with all the stress, all the traumatism I had, traumatizing experience. I have to handle everything and get back to being who I am and handle that party. I told nobody until they realized that somebody in the party said, you know what, the international airport is closed, Air France can't take off, so many big airplanes can't take off because there was a crash. And I was like, you know what, it was me in that plane, and I made it, and I'm here. So it was just at that moment, I think I did not really realize what just happened to me. I just kept going. I was like just thinking like, what would do my dad? What would do all my superheroes would do in this situation? I feel like I'm okay. I had a check with a doctor. Everything was okay. So I'm good to go. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. And the next day, I had a takeoff set for 5 p.m. the next day. And it happened to be the same time I had my crash landing. And the next day, everybody was like, you have to go back. It's like falling off the horse. You have to get back on. You have to ride again. And I'm like, I remember it happened to me in the past. I fell off a horse, and it was really impressive and hurtful and really painful to go over it. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I won't be sinking. I just keep hauling the ball. That's it. I'm going to climb up, and I'm going to have this takeoff. I'm going to do it like I always did. The takeoff was okay the next day at 5 p.m. I did it. Before I had maybe at one moment I was closing my eyes, but my instructor was next to me, so I was not by myself, which was lucky. I closed my eyes and he was like, hey, don't do it. You have to take care of this plane. You have to fly this. I'm like, okay, I'm getting back. But I'm telling you, the first landing was just the most awful landing I've ever had. And he was not touching anything. He was like, touchdown and go. And he made me do 5 touchdown and go that day. And I'm like, you know what? If you are badass to do that, you could do anything in your life and just keep going. Even if maybe a few days later or a few months later, I'm going to have a crash down where I'm going to feel like everything that happened to me is catching back up. Anyway, I'm going to still do it. And if it happened, I'm going to deal with it. And I'll be able to tell myself, you know what? You had this crash landing. You almost killed yourself. I was able to stay 2.5 hours without calling and causing any fear to my family or any relatives. I was able to handle all that peacefully without screaming or feeling any fear or any bad thing. I think I could do anything. And that's how I kind of keep rolling, and I'm trying to do everything I could do. I needed to write that book and share my experience with people who are interested into my story, how I was a survivor and how I was able to do everything. I was in the middle of my bachelor degree back then, and I made it to my bachelor degree. I did everything I was supposed to do the way it has to be done without thinking. And I was lucky to have new friends that had this bond with me because they were survivors of airplane crash as well. And it's amazing. I also heard something that was funny. They told me you have one crash in a lifetime. So it's kind of like you could fly wherever you want to go. You're good to go because you won't have any other airplane crash. So I touch wood. I don't know if it's going to be exactly like that, but that's amazing to think that way. So I'm like, okay, I should be good. Every time I have like turbulences and stuff like that on an airplane, I'm like, I think I've survived the worst, and I think I should be okay. That's how I kind of give myself more confidence on those moments. And that's, I think, one of my badass story I would like to share today with you. Thank you so much. It was Ndeye, and I look forward to learning from you all your badass stories. And thank you, Chris and Jen. I think I needed this to kind of boost me and get completely out of my comfort zone and do it. Thank you so much. Bye.